I have to say, as part of this debate, I think we should take the context of what is happening out in the communities and what's happened generally. According to the 2014 version of the OECD Employment Outlook report, Ireland is the second highest percentage of low-paid jobs to the USA. Portugal has the lowest. So we're in the bracket of a nation of workers who are one of the highest percentages of low-paid jobs in the OECD countries. Yesterday was the World Day of Decent Work, where the Mandate Union had a dramatic has announced that there has been a dramatic reduction in the quality of employment over the past number of years. Since 2008, they've seen a 60% increase in involuntary part-time working. That's workers who want more hours but do not have access to them. They are in the Labour Court on the 29th of October, and they're hoping that the employer that's going to the Labour Court will turn up to the Labour Court, the LRC. And I think that's indicative of where workers' rights are at the moment, is that companies and employers frequently do not tend the state mechanism for dealing with workers' rights and obviously employers' rights as well. But in my mind, the employers have too many rights. We've seen some very disturbing instances over the last period of time, the Paris bakery workers, where they were left high and dry for weeks and weeks on end without any income coming in from social welfare, where the company just moved out and took all the machinery with them, or tried to, and these workers continuously tried to go to the Labour Court or the state machinery to resolve the issue. And eventually it was resolved with intervention, but it was resolved outside of the mechanism of the state machinery to deal with these issues. Then we had the instance with the Greyhound workers who were locked out from the 17th of June this year. Again, it was a process of going through the Labour Court and the LRC, and the employer did not recognise the recommendation that was given from that and put into place a situation, contrived a situation where he locked out the 78 workers there. Now, those men were on the streets outside that workplace for 3 months, and eventually it was only resolved by an intervention of the courts between the two solicitors, a SIF2 solicitor and a solicitor for Greyhound, who actually came to some sort of an arrangement for those workers either to take voluntary redundancy or to go back to work, as 24 of them have done, under worse conditions than they had left or they were locked out of from that workplace. And I think that highlights the whole industry in relation to the necessity to have the industry to be looked at from the point of view of work conditions, pay, how the industry operates, and to cut across the race to the bottom. And I don't know whether this work relations bill has the robustness to actually deal with some of those issues around that dispute. And now we have another situation where 17 workers on the Kishogue site in Lucan, who are building a public school, community school, and 95,000 was paid to that contractor to do that job, and only 35,000 has actually been paid to the workers. And those workers are in a situation now where they're on what they call, there's a specific term, relevant contract tax, where workers are being forced to literally become subcontractor of a subcontractor and be self-employed with these contractors. We have to sort of look at the situation where, at the end of the day, that money trickling down, those brickies, are only getting €5 an hour, and that's the fact. They can prove that with their bank accounts and what they received in their wages. And yet, this company was able to lock out these workers on the 1st of September of this year, and the workers have no recourse, are trying to get back into the Labour Court. The unions are trying to get into the Labour Court to resolve the issues and get these men back to work. And in the meantime, workers are being brought in from outside to do that work. Scab labour has been brought in, like how happened in Greyhound, and it's a very difficult situation for workers on a picket line to see that their work has been done by people earning less money than they should be. And this whole project was supposed to be about putting money back into the economy. I was talking to the workers there on Monday, and they said all the equipment, all the parts of the equipment, the concrete, and the machinery are all being brought in down from the north. So there's no benefit to the local economy in relation to these public contracts being put out there. And we know that the pension fund has been raided for this. 770 only 2 weeks ago, 770 million was taken out of the pension fund to put into this project over the next period of time. Nearly 2 billion has been taken out of it. And this is supposed to be for the benefit of the economy. But if the workers that are working in these industries do not have enough money, are not getting paid enough money to actually earn a living, how is it a benefit to the economy? It's doing no good whatsoever. Now, I heard this morning at the questions to the Minister of Education that she is meeting Minister Nash to try and look at the REA in the area and try and see can they start resolving the issue. But I think it has to move much quicker than this, because those workers now are out since the 1st of September. They have not got paid since the 1st of September. And they're in a very, very difficult situation for men who want to work, men who have been in Australia, had to leave this country not so long ago and have returned home hoping to get work in the local economy again and get decent work in the local economy. They're being left stranded now for the last 5 weeks in relation to this. So I think that the legislation has to be much more robust. How can an employer going through with a union and a workers' representation unilaterally move to lock out these workers and sack them while the process is going on? And I don't think the legislation here is robust enough to deal with that. It's, the points that have been made by the previous deputy about the fixed payment notices. There is a sort of a time limit on the process of going to a circuit court. But I think that the other aspects of labour law has to be brought in. The minimum wage commission, all those areas had to be strengthened to be able to protect workers in the workplace from these from rogue employers. Many of them are. Most employers are. Will go through the process, but we have got a series of rogue employers who just unilaterally do not even recognise the labour courts or the structures within the Irish state. So I think this is a public school. It's been paid by pension funds, being raided, people's money. The 17 workers are still outside the gate. They need this to be resolved, and they need an intervention by the government to be able to resolve this issue. Ratkin Company Limited is saying that they have subcontracted the work. They don't employ brickies. They don't employ brickies, no. They employ a subcontractor to employ brickies who work on an RTTC, an RCT rate. So I think these are the issues that have to be dealt with and should be dealt with through the Workplace Relations Bill.